Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining everybody for another Tuesday discussion. Here on Tuesdays, we do like to give video responses to questions and comments that we get either on YouTube, Instagram, or from our wonderful Patreon community. We love y'all. Today's question was based off of a video I did a few weeks ago where I highlighted my top 10 whiskeys of 2024 thus far. Got into a conversation with a patron over the fact that it seems like the list of the top 10 whiskeys so far just through June looks a lot like the list of the entirety of last year. And I do agree with that. I actually think, I don't know how, but suddenly over the course of the last 5 months, there has been a consistent release of different single barrels, different group picks, different batches, different blends coming out. It has been an exciting year for whiskey, and I think that runs a little counter to the narrative, where it also feels like whiskey is slowing down. At that same time, people are maybe feeling a bit more negative about the hobby or are scaling back, and all these things are happening. And somehow, in the midst of all that, there is absolutely amazing whiskey coming out, and I had a few reasons why I think these two factors are coming together. So thank you for joining today, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. All right. Now, as we go through these reasons, I do want to hear your own experiences. Maybe I'm just existing in a little bit of a bubble here. I need your help to keep me honest. Let me know what's also happening around other parts of the country within your whiskey communities. And if you have any other reasons that you either agree or disagree with this premise. But I think 2024 is on the way to be one of the best years in whiskey, I think, dating back to probably 2019. You know, for me, 2019 is where a lot of things burst in general. The MGP market, for example, completely bottomed out after 2019. It seemed like all the old casks dried up. All of a sudden, by 2020, all the single barrels were 4 years old, 5 years old. And we were buying those, different finishes of these young whiskeys. But a lot of the times, I don't know, the whiskey was just kind of being hidden by the finishes versus accented by those finishes. And, the prices slowly but surely started coming up. We saw brands that were coming off the shelf in 2020, something like the Heaven Hill 6-year going away, turning into the Heaven Hill 7-year, being twice as expensive. Henry McKenna's disappearing. It was just a weird era. But now here we are in 2024, and it does feel like the wind is blowing in a different direction. So I wanted to highlight some things that I've been observing over the course of this year that I think help explain it, but I'm curious to hear what you think as well, especially if you're one of those whiskey friends that is experiencing burnout. Are you just kind of done with it? Is it too little too late? Or is what's coming out this year hopping you back on the bandwagon a little bit? So first off here, one of the reasons I have been really, really impressed with 2024 thus far are what's happening with the younger distilleries, essentially distilleries that opened up in the past decade. Examples of that would be like New Riff coming out with the 8-year bourbon. They also just dropped an 8-year rye last week. That'll probably be next Monday's review. I have been getting incredible single barrels coming out of Columbus, Ohio with Middle West, particularly their Pumpernickel Rye, but I really want to try some of their cast strength wheated bourbon as an example. I am excited to explore more of Middle West as they're hitting the 5-year, 6-year, 7-year range. Hard Truth hit things out of the park at a young age when they were releasing 2- and 3-year-old ryes. Well, now we're getting into 4-year. Heck, maybe by the end of the year, we might even be able to see a 5-year. I don't know about those single barrels, but really curious then how Hard Truth continues their trajectory in making some amazing whiskeys. Green River, of course, has just been hitting nonstop home runs. They waited to drop their product when it was at 5 years. Now we're getting these foolproof. We're getting cast strength single barrels. Jason and the Mash and Journey Whiskey Club just dropped a 7-year Green River single barrel, has this awesome dark cherry note on it. And then, of course, Bardstown Bourbon Company is now releasing their own distillate, and it's been fun seeing their 6-year products come out, their core line, but now getting to explore those single barrels, especially because they have so many different mash bills. That has been fun to explore as well. So these new distilleries are adding a whole different dynamic. And the other thing that I love about these new distilleries is the fact that they are starting their prices at a reasonable spot. Green River is going to be the best one on the list that I have right here, but all these other brands you can get all under $100, ranging from $60 to $80, just depending on the type of bottle that we're talking about. So I do think the new distilleries coming of age is a big reason why I'm really positive so far about 2024. And these are the type of things that I tend to hunt versus hunting any Buffalo Trace products or anything like that. I really haven't bought much this year from the heritage distillers. The next reason, I think people are finally embracing the art of blending. For a while there, it almost felt like blending was considered an inferior product and people were just going after the single barrels. But there have been some blended products coming out recently that I think now people are catching on, that there is an art to blending and you can create things, pairing all these different mash bills, all these different distilleries together that can create something completely unique. And some of the brands that have been doing that and have been just spoiling me so far this year are K. Luke. We had him on the channel earlier this year talking about the product, was amazed by the passion and the care that he puts into his blends and the fact that he, blind flights them himself when he's debating what blends to go with, what blends to release. We love the blind flights here. Bardstown. I'm still head over heels on this Bardstown Amroot. Go look for that review if you don't know what I'm talking about, but that is probably definitely a contender for Whiskey of the Year, if not the Whiskey of the Year. And it's a blend of 5 different mash bills. It's a blend of bourbons. It's a blend of ryes. The ryes were finished in Indian single malt. It is a crazy blend, but it highlights what can be created and the magic that can come out of that. High Bank with the Whiskey War series and the Whiskey War Double Double. Love that. You got the blend of Indiana ryes and bourbons. Foregate, of course, always doing a great job with blending. The recent Foregate Kelvin 6 blend of 9-year-old bourbons, 3 different mash bills, then finished in Madeira and rum casks. We'll get back to them later. Oh, of course, anything Nancy's coming out with. So Nancy Fraley, big fan of Nancy's of the channel. Excited to try the new Murray Hill. I've been debating whether to pick that one up or not because Calvados barrels, but then it's Nancy and it's got 8-year and 17-year stuff in it. I got to try that. And then Barrel King. I have had some great releases from Barrel King. Some of the things that they do, especially with the finishing barrels, has been fantastic. And of course, we got Matt Porter now doing some blends himself. Oh my gosh. So some great companies there that are doing blends that are coming out now. There are many other ones as well. I was trying to stick to the ones that I've bought so far this year. Another reason that I think is interesting is that sourcing bourbons and ryes isn't just about Indiana anymore. So if we would go back to say 2018, 2019, heck, even 2020, when everything kind of reset in ages, like I was saying earlier, all the source products were almost 90% MGP. It was like every other bottle on the shelf was MGP, just at a different age, just at a different proof, just with a different label slapped onto it with all these NDPs. Now you can't take that for granted anymore. And the ones that changed that game were Green River and Bardstown. So there's a lot of Kentucky source bourbon on the market right now. And of course, it's 5 years, 6 years old. Another example is what the Junkies are doing with their Essence brand. They've actually had some Maryland bourbons coming out of Sagamore that have been fantastic. So that's another source where people can get barrels from. Now, not to discount MGP in Indiana. That is my favorite distillery. So, of course, I'm still hunting down MGP single barrels. Had incredible luck so far this year with Nashville Barrel Company single barrels, Backbone single barrels, and Copper and casks. So the fact that that MGP, as I mentioned earlier, has it reset to like 40-year-old casks in 2020. Now I'm not buying really anything younger than 7 years. I'm consistently getting 8 years, 9 years, even 10-year single barrels from Indiana. Love what's happening with the MGP product coming of age and some of the various things that people are doing with it to give it its own spin. The next reason, hey, figuring out how to finish whiskey. You know, it felt like for a while there, people were just pouring whiskey in any cask they could, letting it sit, maybe overcook, maybe overfinish. There are a lot of companies now that have figured out the art of finishing, the timing behind it, you know, whether they do it for just a few weeks or just a few months, but depending on what that cask is, they know what they had. Great releases I've had this year from Dark Arts, Foregate, Two Souls doing some great things with that pumpernickel rye. You know, they double barreled that one. That was a spicy, delicious jam. Rare Character had some really good Rare Character single barrels so far this year. And then Rebecca Creek. I'd be remiss to not talk about Rebecca Creek and that wonderful double barrel. And final reason that I have here too, that I think 2024 has been kind of insane. And once again, maybe this is just the circle that I'm in and I'm just a proximity of some of these great groups that are getting some great barrels. But I am in a lot of private groups. That is primarily where I get a lot of my whiskey. I still go to Northern Kentucky, very rarely buy stuff in Ohio, but do go to some stores in Northern Kentucky, see what's going on there. There have been some good general releases that have come out in 2024, but the single barrels that I've been getting from these groups, oh my gosh. The Barrels for Hope, Mash and Journey Whiskey Cub, Nerds and Turds with that wonderful bull run. That's a 16-year light whiskey finished in Pinot for a year. Oh my gosh. We got Two Bros, One Bottle, ADHD Whiskey. Had some lot of good picks from Matt. And once again, this is just a few examples. I am leaving out a whole lot of groups that I love so far. These are just the ones that have been essentially in my top 10, top 20 so far this year. But there is a whole myriad of single barrels and groups that I've gotten my hands on too that have been just great barrels of whiskey. We've gotten to pick some ourselves. Those will come out later this year. So we're getting in this barrel picking game too. It is so much fun, and I am looking forward to just seeing what everyone else in the community comes out with, what we're able to come out with. Just keep throwing our names in the hat, bring great whiskey to this community. So those are 5 reasons I think 2024 is really hitting it out of the park so far. I think this could be a banner year for whiskey. Once again, at the same time that there does seem to be opposite momentum going on with people that are still passionate about the hobby or entering the hobby, not as, going crazy with the hunting and all that. So curious to hear your thoughts. What have you thought of 2024 thus far? What brands have you liked? Is there anything in this list that you disagree with? Are there any points that I missed? Love to hear your take. Please put it in the comments. That's how these discussion comments work. And if you have any other topics you'd like us to handle in a future week, let us know here as well. So thank you for joining me today, whiskey friends. I'll catch you on the next Tuesday discussion. Goodbye, everybody.